A second Q family has been left traumatised after a team of thugs broke into their home last night while they slept.
Police say 4 aggressive and dangerous men are on the run after a man was allegedly punched and robbed.
Victorians could soon be given more power to protect their homes from intruders under a bold new bid to overhaul the state's self-defence laws.
What has happened to Australia? Something is going wrong in this country right now, and it seems that no one has the fix for it. Australia used to be called the lucky country. Well, we're quickly becoming the violent country. There has been, over the past few months, if not few years, a giant surge in the prevalence of violent crime affecting everyday citizens. Every week there are more and more reports of people having their cars broken into, things stolen, but moreover and more terrifyingly, home invasions. People forcing their way into their safe space. Now, I know for a long time the idea of a safe space was more of a joke, more of a meme than anything else, and it only existed on college campuses. Your home is your safe space. It's where your body can actually switch off and relax. And right now, it seems like safe spaces don't exist at all. Everyone seems to be somewhat on edge. A few days ago, this happened. A 20-year-old woman in this case, was breaking into someone's home, allegedly, armed with, allegedly, a knife. Now, what happened when this 20-year-old, obviously something's gone wrong in their lives to be breaking into people's houses, and particularly a woman, that seems very out of the ordinary. But what happened when she broke in, allegedly? Well, the people who lived there, they subsequently restrained this individual, and they unfortunately passed away. The person who broke in passed away. And I say it's unfortunate because, we don't want anyone, dying, particularly a 20-year-old woman. Obviously, something's gone terribly, terribly wrong in her existence for that to happen. But officers rushed to the scene and found the woman unconscious and performed CPR before rushing her to hospital in a critical condition. The woman died in hospital on Wednesday. Now, when they were restrained, I don't know too much about the details, but let's assume that they put her in a rear naked choke or something like that, and she passed out. Maybe she didn't start breathing. I don't know. Who knows what could have happened in that situation? Maybe, and I'm obviously just speculating here, maybe there were drugs involved, maybe there was alcohol involved, maybe there was a medical condition involved. Who knows? And I know I'm probably being a bit too lenient on this 20-year-old woman because she's a woman, and maybe that's a internal misogyny coming out. But I don't know. I don't like seeing a 20-year-old die. Call me crazy. But what's even worse than all of that is the two people involved in restraining this person are now facing very serious charges. I imagine they're murder or manslaughter charges because they defended their home. Their lives are now being turned upside down because some lunatic allegedly broke into their home, their safe space. People aren't feeling safe in their homes because we, as Australians, don't have the ability to defend ourselves and defend our homes. These guys, they may get off these charges, and I hope they do. But they also have to then spend all this money defending themselves. So their lives are completely changed forever because some idiot broke in, allegedly, to their house. This all seems to happen more often than not in Australia's left-wing capital, Melbourne. Now, year on year, 21% increase in violent crime has happened in the state of Victoria, in which Melbourne sits in. This happens all over the world in far left progressive cities. It does. You can argue with me all day, but the stats point to the fact that it is far more likely that you are going to encounter someone violent in one of these places rather than in a place where their politics are more centrists or slightly right-leaning. We don't want far right, no way. But in the middle, that's where we want people. That seems to be where they're the most logical and the calmest. As for Australia, here's the answer. We need the ability to defend ourselves in our home. But our government has told us that won't be happening. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But before I do, I wanted to focus on a story that really cements the problem in Australia when it comes to the justice system and allowing people to go out on bail and then commit other crimes, or they get arrested and sentenced to jail and they're out in a couple of months, couple of years, and they're back on the streets. This is a story from Alice Springs. A Northern Territory Chief Justice outlines the court's decision to bail teenager charged over Alice Springs home invasion. This is the craziest story of the year, okay? Now, when I say that, I'm not being a dick, all right? I'm not being crazy. Listen to this. The Northern Territory's Chief Justice has released a rare public statement responding to backlash over a decision to release on bail a teenager charged with an alleged home invasion in Alice Springs. The 17-year-old should be in jail for 10 years if you do this, by the way, minimum. Was charged over the break-in at a Larapinta home in December that left a 2-month-old baby girl with a fractured skull. I'm fucking sorry, but if you do that, if you do something so horrific, you need to spend the next 2 decades in prison. I don't give a fuck about the rest of your life. That is fucking insane. He was granted bail last week to attend his grandfather's funeral in remote community Larjaramunu. Fuck, I cannot pronounce things. Too fucking bad, bro. If you do that, you do something so outrageous, you don't get bail. And this is the problem. These people are being let out onto the streets, and this guy just went to his grandfather's funeral, but it's the message it sends. If you go to prison, you should be locked up for your time, however long that happens to be. We need more power for the courts to lock up criminals, lock up bad people, violent people. If you're a drug dealer, all right, if you're like a petty criminal, whatever. Bail those fucking idiots, whatever. But if they're a violent person, fuck you. Lock you up, motherfucker. Make the streets safe. And what makes this more, and I alluded to this just before, when we try to do something, there was a petition, right, to go in front of the Parliament about castle law, about making changes, about giving Australians the ability to defend ourselves. We don't have anything. The best idea, like the Victorian government, for example, the best idea that they have to stop violent crime is to ask nicely to these violent criminals to put machetes in bins, in like clothing donation bins. Yeah, put your machetes in there so you don't commit any more violent crimes. Wasn't there a dude with a machete that they let out on bail and he ended up killing 2 other people? What the fuck? In Australia, we don't have a way to protect ourselves. If someone breaks into your home, what are you going to do? We can't have pepper spray. That's illegal. We can't have the pew pew bang bangs. They're illegal, right? What do? If we defend ourselves with an object from our house, we're likely to go to jail if we hurt that person. Fuck you. If you enter my home, then you enter a whole new set of rules. That should be laid out as doctrine in this country, that if you enter someone else's home, too fucking bad, mate. You're gonna cop it, and rightfully so. You come into my fucking home and threaten my family? I don't want to say these things on YouTube. I'll say it on Patreon. Here you go, you can join Patreon for $5 a month. Okay, I just said something a bit ridiculous on Patreon, but anyway, whatever. There's a libertarian guy known as David Limbrick, and he's pushing for castle doctrine to come into law, similar to the one that exists in the UK and the US, to be introduced into Victoria. Now, this is where all these violent crimes are happening. Castle doctrine would create a law that affords Victorians the opportunity to forcibly ward off home intruders without consequence, which is a fantastic idea. And in fact, here is the petition. We'll put this in the description of the video as well, where you can sign this petition. Unfortunately, we have a lot of very weak politicians, particularly weak men who won't stand up for this shit, and I imagine wouldn't stand up for their families. Now, I say men in these situations, and I'll tell you why. If a baby, say you're a mother and father, husband and wife, and you've had a baby, they're 6 months old. In the vast majority of cases, if that baby cries, the mother wakes up. The father sleeps through it. But if there's a noise outside the window that sounds a bit odd, sounds a bit ominous, sounds a bit scary, isn't normal, the father will wake up in the vast majority of cases, and the wife will sleep through. Because we are programmed to defend ours. This is probably why I expect male politicians to get behind this castle doctrine, but they haven't. They won't. Victorian Attorney General Sonia Kilkenny defended the state's existing self-defence laws. Our self-defence laws in Victoria are proportionate, and Victorians are encouraged. In fact, we plead with Victorians to please continue to call Victoria Police in any emergency situation. That's not helpful. Yeah, obviously call the police. Police are there to help you. Agreed. They do an amazing job and they have to deal with bullshit every single day. But unless the police are parked out the front of your house, you're fucked. You're going to have to fight off this attacker for 5 minutes or more. But I've got some good news. Victoria is cracking down on this. In July, the Victorian government unveiled details of new bail law changes that it said were the toughest in the country. These changes will see people accused of committing 6 serious robbery and home invasion offences whilst on bail refuse additional bail. Unless the decision maker is satisfied, there is a high likelihood that the accused will not reoffend. Oh, so you can do 5 reoffences if you're on bail, but not 6. Don't do 6. That's too crazy. I got an idea. How about fucking none? How about no more offences? How about no more break-ins? How about no more violent attacks, you fucking scum? This is so consistent with the fucking politicians of the Western world who are confused. They think they're there to protect these fucking violent criminals. This is what it looks like. They don't believe they're there to protect us, the average citizen, and it's fucking garbage. And yet we voted in time after time. And if you don't believe me that the average citizen isn't looked after here, earlier this year, Aldwin Serrano, and this is from a Greens, like a left-wing parody page, but it is a real story. A family man from Queensland faced a terrifying home invasion. A gang of thugs smashed a window and attempted to break into his home, threatening his wife and children. In a desperate bid to protect his family, Aldwin used pepper spray to defend them and stop the attack. What happened? Well, Aldwin was charged with unlawful possession of a Category R weapon. At his court appearance, a judge didn't just rule against him, but attacked him. She called his act a misconceived attempt to protect his property and lectured him. You should know the law and know that these things are prohibited. No, judge, you should know that your job is to protect the people, and you are failing that, and you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. The fact that we can't hold pepper spray in this country is fucking that is so ridiculous. That is absolutely unbelievable. A non-lethal weapon. Give every Australian some pepper spray, and if you use it unjustly, then yeah, sure, be charged. But the fact remains that we do not have a way to defend ourselves in this country, and if we do it, we will be in trouble, we will go to jail. Despite this man's clean criminal record, he was placed on a 6-month good behaviour bond. This country, honestly. Ladies and gentlemen, be a good motherfucker. Peace in the Middle East. Bit extinct. Toodaloo au revoir. Bye.